In the aftermath of Hurricane Beryl, a special committee on hurricane and tropical storm preparedness has been formed in the Texas Senate. Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick called for the committee to be formed and joins me today to discuss its goals and findings to this point. Lieutenant Governor, thanks for being here.
Sure, Michael. Good to be with you.
Good to be with you as well. So let's just start off. What is the goal of this hurricane and tropical storm preparedness, recovery, and electricity committee?
So, Michael, over the last 15 years or so, we've had nearly 30 different storm events in Texas. And every time you have a storm, you go back and analyze how the private sector can do better, how the state can do better, how local government can do better to prepare for the next one. So part of the hearing was for that reason. Let's go back and see what everyone did and see how we can do it better. I will tell you that on the state side, and I declared, I was acting governor at the time. The governor was in Asia on an economic development trip for Texas. So I was there before the storm, during the storm, and after the storm for most of it. And I can tell you that the state delivered. There was not one county judge that I've met out of the 121 counties that I declared as an emergency disaster area before the storm. Some were hit, some were not. But in that big area, every judge, every mayor that we talked to felt that TDEM, the Texas Division rather of Emergency Management, delivered everything they needed: help, services, ice, water, generators, whatever they needed. So the state did very well. At the local level, Michael, it all starts there. The mayors and county judges in Texas are just tremendous in their response, and their emergency managers. So from Matagorda on the south, where the storm came, all the way up through Houston, all the way up to East Texas, where you are in your viewing area, every county judge was just terrific, and every mayor was just terrific. The problem we had was twofold, and I want to talk about this in a moment. The expectation of what a tropical storm or Category 1 hurricane can create, because I don't think everyone thought it would be that bad, and it was very bad. And number two, the disaster at CenterPoint, which for your area, they have very little, if any, coverage. But CenterPoint has several million customers in the greater Houston area, all the way down to Laredo and up into East Texas a little bit. But they failed. And that's what we are also focusing on. They failed at every level.
You mentioned that CenterPoint doesn't have much coverage in this area where I'm speaking to
Right.
you in Tyler, but Encore does. And you allude
Sure.
to Encore in your statement because
Yes.
your office, should I say, issued a statement earlier this week saying that you intend to write a letter to the State Public Utility Commission asking them to, quote, revoke their decision to grant CenterPoint's request for taxpayers and for CenterPoint to pay that money from their own profits. Why
Right.
do you feel this is the right option in the wake of Hurricane
Yeah.
Beryl?
So what happened was CenterPoint was not prepared, and people went without power for days and days and days in stifling heat, uh, and people died. A number of people died from heat stroke. Um, so you look at, were they prepared? And the answer is no. And one of the reasons they did not get power back sooner is because they went around a law, I believe purposefully, for whatever their reasons were. They were wrong reasons if they were business and wrong reasons if it was for profit. But we passed legislation, Michael, in the last 2 years to allow companies like Encore and CenterPoint, the two biggest in the state that actually deliver the electricity to people's homes and businesses, to have small generators. Now, why do they need small generators? Well, maybe a hospital is knocked out of power, or a fire station, or a police station, although locals normally have generators for those areas, but they can be knocked out. They were in Houston. Or assisted living or nursing homes. Have these small generators to go to those areas on basically on a trailer and hook up power quickly. And so we allow them to do that. Encore did the right thing. They spent about $5 million buying, or leasing rather, small generators in times of emergency. They can put them on the trailer, get them right out. What CenterPoint did was spend $800 million. Remember, Encore 5 in small generators, and CenterPoint spent $800 million, almost $1 billion, on massive generators that were not mobile. And they make about $30 million profit on that because when they lease these generators, they're paid for and they get an interest return on their profit. So some of us believe that they spent $800 million in order to make money, maybe about 30 million. Or if that wasn't their purpose, Michael, the other reason they did it, it was just bad management. They bought these massive generators it would take a crane to move. So that was not the intent of the bill. And that's the reason those $800 million that would go to ratepayers should be clawed back from the Public Utility Commission, the PUC, should be clawed back, and CenterPoint should have to pay for their blunder and mistake and not the ratepayers.
You sort of allude to your belief that CenterPoint's actions were not the intention of the bill. If I hear you correctly, that's
Sure.
Senate Bill 1075 and House Bill
Yes.
1500.
Correct.
But do you feel that the legislation is is there any improvements that should be made to that legislation now in the wake of this hearing? Do you feel like the legislation is at all at fault, I guess is the way to say it?
No, the legislation's not at fault. Every other company, AEP, another electric company, they deliver rather. They, along with Encore, did the right thing. And CenterPoint bought. Here's the irony: CenterPoint spent $500,000 on small generators, 800 million on these massive generators. So they spent 500,000, and guess what? They borrowed small generators from Encore and other companies because they didn't have enough. So they knew they needed more for a city the size of Houston. And there's nothing in this bill that gave them permission to do that. It was clear from the debate on the floor in the House and in the Senate over 2 sessions and 2 chambers debating it. The purpose was for small generators. They even put their name and their logo on an ad supporting Senate Bill 1075 and photographs of small generators. So did anything stop them from doing it? Yes. What should have stopped them from doing it is the intent of the bill, the discussion on the floor, the reason for it, what they supported. And instead, they took advantage of that bill to spend $800 million on massive generators. Now, why would they do that very quickly? They say for another winter storm Uri, where they need, where we have a potential blackout. Those storms are 1 in 100 years or more. But we have emergencies, wildfires, any type of weather, tropical storm, hurricane, flooding. Those are what impacts all of Texas, including East Texas. That's what they need the small generators for. So they violated the intent of the bill. They knew they violated the intent of the bill, and they made a bad business decision. They need to pay for it.
What is the state recourse in this matter? Is there anything the state can really do here?
Oh, sure. Sure. The PUC, Public Utility Commission, regulates these companies that deliver electricity. And so they granted them permission to spend the $800 million. Actually, CenterPoint had already spent it before they asked if they could. They granted them, and that goes to the ratepayers. It costs ratepayers between $1 and $3 a month on their bill in the CenterPoint area if you're a customer of CenterPoint. And so CenterPoint gets their $800 million back, plus they get a profit on top of it. They testified about $30 million a year. This is just wrong. This is wrong. This is bad management, and it's not the intent of the bill. And so not only are they making a profit on their blunder, but there are people who died of heat stroke, and maybe they could have. And I'm not blaming the deaths on CenterPoint, but what I'm saying is some of those people that died on the heat, maybe one of those portable generators could have gone to their area and restored power. I don't know that, obviously, but they did not do their job. So they made a profit while people suffered in stifling heat for a week or more.
How
Simple.
confident are you? What'd you say? Sorry.
I say it's just look, it's very simple. Here's what the bill said. Encore did it right. AEP did it right. CenterPoint did it all wrong. And that PUC now can reverse that. I'm sending a letter to them to ask them to reverse that, giving them the evidence on why they should reverse it. And that should come out of CenterPoint's profits, not out of the pockets of ratepayers. And I would feel the same way if it were Encore or another company. But Encore did it right. They serviced the greater Dallas area over to East Texas, as you know, big area. They did it right.
How confident are you that, as you say, that will be reversed?
Well, that's up to the PUC. There are 5 commissioners. I'm hoping that they look at our evidence, look at our letter, look at the testimony, and make the right decision.
Many of your comments at this point have surrounded utility companies. We've talked a
Yes.
lot. Are there any other areas you would like to see improvements for hurricane or tropical storm preparedness? And if so, what is your office doing in those areas?
So I was in California when I saw the track of the storm kind of move from Mexico to more Texas and more in the greater Houston, East Texas area on the night of July 3rd. I just arrived there. I turned right around and came back because I knew I was acting governor. So I came back, and one of the things, Michael, that I was concerned about, it was a holiday weekend, and the message would not get out. People weren't focused. They weren't, they weren't their normal routine of watching the news or watching the weather. They were just having fun, which you should over the 4th of July weekend. Thousands and thousands were at the beaches where the storm could have hit. So I immediately started doing interviews like this all over Texas, from Texarkana all the way down to South Texas, everywhere I could, to alert people. So one of the things, Michael, I think out of this, that everyone, including East Texas, should understand that anytime there's a tropical storm in the Gulf or a hurricane, it could come your way. And so be prepared. You can't dismiss it as, well, it's a tropical storm or Hurricane 1. For example, this hurricane that developed 24 hours out from a tropical storm, it was devastating. The wind damage. If you go down to Jasper, Newton County, and those counties a little south of you, it was like a giant walked through the forest and just stepped on all the trees. There were trees everywhere down. And of course, trees go down on power lines. And the co-ops, by the way, the smaller electric companies, delivered and did a great job too. I applaud them for the work that they did in the smaller counties in East Texas. But the people just have to be on alert. Most tropical storms or Hurricane 1, by the time they get 30, 40 miles north of Houston, they kind of become big storms, and that's it. But I was trying to warn everyone that this storm, Beryl, which went through the Caribbean, killing people and continuing to strengthen, might go all the way up through Texarkana. And that was the path it was on, but paths change. And that path ended up kind of veering east and going through Arkansas. So it didn't hit Tyler and Texarkana, but everyone along the coast. And we're in hurricane season all the way up until November. We have bad storms in August and September. Need to be on alert. Don't dismiss it. Well, the storm's not coming our way. It's going to Mexico. Well, in 3 days, it hit Houston. Even the National Hurricane Service, Michael, will acknowledge that when they put out a track, the storm could change 30, 40 miles overnight. And I've seen that happen in my time. Remember, you see that cone, the track and the cone. What do they call that cone, Michael? The cone of uncertainty. So my main effort when I came back, because TDEM does a great job, Texas Division of Emergency Management, they delivered, they're prepared. We prepare at the Texas level for the worst and pray for the best.
Is there
And
anything
the
more
worst
you'd
happens.
like to see at the state level regarding hurricane and tropical storm preparedness?
Everyone can always do better, but I
In
would
what
give,
ways?
well, everyone can do better in everything, Michael. You can do better in this interview. I can do better in my answers. We can always go back on anything we do in life. Oh, I could have done that better. But overall, the state of Texas delivered, and Nim Kidd, who's for 15 years been our chief of emergency management, I give him and his team an A. They delivered again. I don't think you could find a county judge in the 121 counties that say that the state of Texas didn't deliver. So I give them the credit, the great men and women. And what people don't know is that over the last 10 years, really, the federal government has sent billions to states, and we have spent hundreds of millions in Texas, more than any other state, to beef up our own emergency management. Because here's the bottom line. The first people that are required to respond and can respond are your local mayors and county judges. And then it's the state. And then it's the federal government. We don't count on the federal government. They come in and write checks after the fact for damage if it qualifies. But they're really more of an accounting firm than they are an emergency relief firm. Of course, they can do certain things. Like, for example, we put out over 200 generators. 98% of them were Texas generators. I think we put out 200, they put out 6. They don't even deliver ice anymore. President Obama stopped delivering ice because he said the federal government ships all this ice everywhere, and it sits there and it melts, and it's millions and millions of dollars going to waste. It's up to us at the city, the county, and the state level to respond to our residents, because the local officials are closest to the emergency. It's right there in their community. Then we're next to back them up and come in with everything they need, which we did. And then the federal government comes in and writes the checks after the fact. And by the way, sometimes it takes them 6, 8, 10 years to pay cities and counties for the damage, debris removal, and that. So that's the order of it. I think the state of Texas did a great job. I think your local county judges and mayors were well prepared. And even though the storm didn't hit you all, I can tell you that your judges and your mayors in your viewing area, they were ready, and we were ready.